welcome to our November edition of Let's Get Growing. And it should be cooling off in November and a time for us to start a few new activities in the landscape. But remember, we should get our first freeze around Thanksgiving. So let's avoid pruning anything back too harshly at this time, because then you're going to get freeze tip burn. But in November, you'll want to mow regularly still at that higher height, forcing that root system to go lower. Also, water dry areas, and not by hand. You need to put sprinklers out and make sure that you're forcing that water deep so that the roots are going down and that they're storing those nutrients in water so they can make it through the winter. Now you'll want to remove dead or diseased leaves from the ground around the trees, rake them up weekly, and also any dead or diseased wood that's up in the trees needs to come down as well at this point. And then we can begin our major tree pruning, and that's going to be three major principles. Anything that crosses and rubs, because that's going to make an entryway for insects and disease. Anything growing towards the middle, so you open the canopy up a little bit, and of course your dead or diseased wood. But remember, do not strip the limb out and leave foliage just on the end. That's called line tailing. And when you do that, that one little tuft out on the end will catch the wind and twist the limb and actually rip it off the tree. We need all of the canopy moving together. So we need that inside foliage. Don't strip them down and line tail them. And remember, if you need to get on a ladder, you need a professional. Well, it's going to be time to fertilize those winter annuals like pansies and kale that you've planted for beautiful color. Get that fertilization in before it gets too cold, and you too will have beautiful winter color. Well, what's happening in the fall? All the leaves are falling off our trees. Add them to the compost pile and turn it. You get most of your nutrients from leaves. And last but not least, let's remember, feed the birds. Well, today, for our demonstration, we're going to take this ivy that's been grown in water, and you can see all these wonderful roots that have developed, and we're going to replant them into this attractive pot. What's the main thing is we have to have soil, and then we have to have a hole in the bottom of the container to ensure drainage. Now, although they've been growing in water over here, when we put them in the soil, we're going to have to develop a whole new root system. So we're going to want to keep them a little bit wetter than we usually would. So we're going to put a little bit of soil in the bottom of the container. And because these have all grown together, you can even see that they've rooted in the water. We remove any dead or diseased leaves, clean it up a little bit, and now you can see we've got one stem that's really long, and we're just going to take it and bend it around, put them into the container, and you can see that I'm maintaining the original, well, I can't say soil height, but we can say water height in the container. Don't worry about these little sprouts that are going to be under the soil. They still will come out. So we carefully take our soil, and because these are in so closely entwined, first I'll add the soil to the outside and gently work it in, and then I'll spread the individual little runners and put a little bit of soil to the inside. This will allow the soil to penetrate down and make contact with all the roots. And you can see I'm just kind of teasing it in there where it needs to be. We have several different kinds of ivy in here. We have the arrowleaf, and when we have the plain old pothos that you have growing everywhere. So the arrowhead will grow kind of tall, and the pothos will drape. So you're going to have a beautiful plant with some height and some drape. It's amazing how much soil goes into a container. And if you notice, I'm not mashing the soil in. I'm carefully teasing it in and making sure that it's stable. And then last but not least, remember these were grown in water. So we're going to water thoroughly. You always leave a little container, lip on the container when you plant so that you have a little edge to hold the water in. And you can see the soil was a little wet when we started, and it's already absorbed this whole container of water. So when I get to the location where this plant will be installed, I will actually soak this with more water. And you're going to make sure that you soak this at least every other day for a week, and then you're going to back off the water. Wait for new growth, and then you'll water as needed. Well, that's our November edition of Let's Get Growing. I look forward to seeing you in December.